3 in the morning is a strange time. No longer night, but not yet morning. A time when the darkest thoughts seem especially vivid. I knew this well. Insomnia had been my faithful companion these past months. On such nights, I usually went down to the kitchen, brewed tea, and looked out the window. But this time, something was different. Muffled sounds came from the kitchen. Elena, my mother-in-law, sat at the table clutching a cup with trembling hands. In the dim light of the night lamp, I could see traces of tears on her cheeks. "Can't sleep." I tried to keep my voice casual. She startled. "Alex, I thought everyone was asleep." "As you can see, not everyone." An awkward pause fell. We had never been alone. Sarah, my wife, or someone else was always there. "Want some tea?" she asked, wiping her eyes. "Let me make it." Familiar movements, kettle, tea leaves, cups, helped overcome the awkwardness of the moment. "Want to talk about it?" I sat across from her. "About what?" "Why you're crying at 3 in the morning." She raised her eyes, brown like Sarah's, but with some special depth. "Sometimes it just hits me. You know that feeling?" "I do." In the kitchen silence, our eyes met, and something changed in the air. "It's an anniversary today," she said quietly, "of the divorce." "I'm sorry, I didn't know." "Nobody knows. Not even Sarah. I didn't want to reopen old wounds." Her voice trembled, a new tear rolled down her cheek. Without thinking, I reached out, wiped it away with my thumb. She froze under my touch. "Alex, sorry." I pulled my hand back. "I didn't mean to." "No, it's fine." But we both felt something had changed. One simple touch had crossed an invisible boundary. "Tell me," I asked, "about the divorce, about what you're feeling. Do you really want to know?" "Yes." She took a sip of tea. "It's a long story. We have time. Dawn is still far away." Stars flickered outside the window. The night's silence enveloped us, creating a strange sense of intimacy. "All right." She took a deep breath. "Just, this stays between us?" "Of course." She began to speak, and I looked at her, thinking that I had never noticed how beautiful she was. Especially now, vulnerable, real, without her usual mask of a strong woman. And somewhere at the edge of consciousness, a dangerous thought flickered. This night could change everything. "He left suddenly," Elena began, looking into her cup. "Just said he didn't feel anything anymore, that we had become strangers." In the dim light, her profile seemed drawn. Slender neck, graceful line of chin. Now I understood where Sarah got her beauty from. "You know what's scariest?" She raised her eyes. "Not the loneliness, but that he was right. We really had become strangers." "How did it happen?" "Gradually, day by day, year by year. First we stopped talking, then touching." Her voice trembled on the last word. "And then?" "Then I started noticing other men, imagining another life." Something in her tone made me tense. "And now, do you imagine?" She gave me a long look. "Sometimes." The kitchen suddenly felt very hot. "You know," she continued, "after the divorce, I thought everything was dead. Desires, feelings. But it turned out they were just sleeping. And now? Now, they're waking up." Her fingers nervously fidgeted with the edge of her robe. I noticed it had slightly parted, revealing her collarbone. "Elena, I'm sorry. I shouldn't say such things. You're my daughter's husband. And you're her mother." "Yes, so let's just talk." But we both felt simple conversation was no longer possible. "Are you happy with Sarah?" she asked suddenly. "Yes, I suppose." "I suppose" is a poor answer for a happy marriage. I stayed silent. She was right. "You know," she moved closer, "sometimes I see in your eyes the same thing I had. The same emptiness." "Don't." "Why? Afraid of the truth?" Her knee accidentally touched mine under the table. She didn't move away. "Elena, we shouldn't." "What? Speak the truth, feel?" Something dangerous, attractive showed in her eyes. "I see how you look at me," she whispered. "Not just today. For a long time." "You're mistaken." "Really? Then why is your hand shaking?" I looked down. Indeed, my fingers were trembling slightly, spilling tea. Outside, Dawn was approaching. But inside us, darkness was gathering. Dark, dangerous, alluring. "More tea?" I asked, trying to ease the tension. "No," she stood up. "I think we need something stronger." The whiskey burned my throat. Elena poured more, her hand slightly trembling. "Careful," I held her wrist. "You'll spill it." The touch lasted longer than it should have. Her skin was warm, pulse beating under my fingers like a captured bird. "You know," she didn't pull her hand away, "I haven't felt simple touches for so long, just the warmth of another person." "Elena." "Shh. Give me a moment." We stood by the kitchen counter, too close, too intimate. Her robe had slipped from her shoulder, revealing smooth skin. "Sometimes," she whispered, "I wake up at night and feel such emptiness inside." My hand reached out on its own to fix her robe. Fingers slid across her shoulder, lingering longer than necessary. "Alex." "Yes?" "We're playing with fire." "I know." But I didn't remove my hand. Her skin was like silk under my fingers. "Is Sarah asleep?" Her voice trembled. "Deeply. She took sleeping pills." "Good." She leaned into the touch, like a cat. My fingers slid higher along her neck, tangled in her hair. "We shouldn't," she whispered. "We shouldn't," I agreed, pulling her closer. She smelled of something floral and whiskey. Her breathing quickened when I leaned towards her neck. "Alex, please." "What are you asking for?" "I don't know. To stop. Or?" Instead of answering, she turned in my embrace. Our faces were so close I could feel her breath on my lips. "This will change everything," she whispered. "It already has." Her hand slid across my chest, clutching my t-shirt. My fingers tangled in her hair. "Last chance to stop." Her voice trembled. Somewhere upstairs a floorboard creaked. We froze. "Must be nothing," she breathed out. But the moment was broken. I stepped back. "We need to think." "What's there to think about? Everything is clear." "Is it?" She went to the window. "Dawn is coming. Reality will return." "And now?" "Now." She turned, and something dark and dangerous showed in her eyes. "Now it's still night." I took a step toward her, then another. We both knew. Stopping was no longer possible. The first kiss was cautious, almost weightless. Her lips trembled, or maybe I was trembling. "We've gone mad," she whispered. "Completely." The second kiss was more confident. Her hands slid under my t-shirt. My fingers undid her robe's belt. "Not here," she breathed out. "The kitchen. Too dangerous." "Where?" "Guest bedroom downstairs." We moved in darkness, trying not to make noise. Every step, every breath seemed deafening in the night's silence. The bedroom was dark. Only moonlight created strange shadows. She turned to me, the robe slipping from her shoulders. "You're beautiful." My voice sounded hoarse. "For a woman my age?" "Just beautiful." The night luminary enveloped her in soft radiance. Every moment was precious, every quiet sound special. "Alex?" "Shh." The bed creaked under our weight. Every movement found response. My hands explored every curve. Somewhere upstairs a floorboard creaked again. We froze. "Sarah?" she whispered. "No. Old house, just creaking." But the moment of fear added sharpness to sensations. Every touch became keener, every kiss deeper. "We shouldn't," she whispered one last time. "I know." But stopping was impossible now. We dissolved in the moonlight. Breaths mingled, boundaries blurred. It was like madness, sweet, forbidden, inevitable. Her whispers, my sighs, the rustle of sheets, everything merged into some primal symphony of passion. Afterward we lay embracing, her head on my chest, my fingers in her hair. "What have we done?" she whispered. "What we've wanted for a long time. This will change everything." It already has. Outside, dawn was beginning. Reality returned with each ray of sun. "I need to go." I kissed her shoulder. "Sarah will wake up soon." "I know." But we didn't move. Every second was precious. This was beautiful, she finished, and terrible at the same time. Tears glistened in her eyes. I wiped them away with kisses. "Don't regret it." "I don't, and that's what scares me most." Steps were heard upstairs. This time for sure. Sarah, reality returned completely. I managed to get up to the kitchen a minute before Sarah came down. Pretended to be making coffee. Honey, you're up so early. Couldn't sleep. I tried not to meet her eyes. Decided to make breakfast. How sweet. Is Mom up yet? I almost dropped the cup. Don't know. Probably sleeping. But Elena appeared a few minutes later. Perfectly dressed, hair damp from the shower. Only a slight paleness betrayed her sleepless night. Good morning. Her voice sounded casual. How did you sleep? Great. Sarah hugged her mother. But you look tired. Slept poorly. Divorce anniversary. Pain flashed in her eyes. Real, not pretended. I understood she hadn't lied last night. Everything had been true. Mom! Sarah hugged her again. Why didn't you say anything? Didn't want to worry you. Our eyes met over Sarah's shoulder. The same storm of feelings that raged in me showed in her eyes. I'll make tea, she said, pulling away from her daughter. I'll help. I stepped toward the stove. We stood side by side, not touching, but the air between us was electrified. Hot, she whispered when our hands accidentally touched over the kettle. Very. And we both knew. We weren't talking about tea. Mom, will you stay for the weekend? Sarah asked. No, darling, I need to think. About what? About life. About choices we make. Her voice trembled on the last words. After breakfast, she packed her things. I offered to carry her bag to the car. This was a mistake, she said when we were alone by the car. Do you really believe that? I have to. For her sake. Sarah waved from the porch. Elena waved back. What now? I asked. Now we'll live with this. With our secret. What if I don't want just a secret? She gave me a long look. Then what do you want? You. That's impossible. Why? Because we both love her more than we love each other. Tears stood in her eyes. Goodbye, Alex. Goodbye, Elena. She got in the car, but before closing the door, whispered, You know what's scariest? I'll remember every second of this night. Every touch. Me too. And that will be our punishment. The week after that night turned into torture. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her. In the moonlight, with loose hair. You're acting strange, Sarah noticed. Maybe see a doctor? No, just work. Elena didn't call, didn't write. Only sometimes I noticed Sarah frowning at her phone. Mom's been so uncommunicative lately. On Friday, a message came. We need to talk. Today. Usual place. I knew which place she meant. A small cafe near her house where we sometimes met as a family. She waited at a far table, pale, drawn, but still beautiful. I can't do this, she said instead of greeting. It's killing me. Me too. I can't sleep. Keep thinking about that night. About you. Her hand lay on the table. I wanted to cover it with mine but held back. What should we do? I have a job offer in Seattle. I felt the ground disappear beneath my feet. You're leaving? I have to. Otherwise we'll do something irreparable. Maybe we already have. No, what happened was weakness. A moment. But if we continue, then what? Then we'll destroy everything. Her life. Our lives. She took out an envelope. This is the job acceptance letter. Already signed. When? In 2 weeks. And what will you tell Sarah? The truth. Partially. That I need a new life. Her eyes filled with tears. You know what's most terrible? I really do love you. Not as a whim, not as a caprice. Genuinely. Elena. No, listen. That's exactly why I have to leave. Because real love is when you're ready to give up your own happiness for the happiness of those you love even more. She stood up. Goodbye, Alex. Is this the end? This is the beginning of a new chapter. For all of us. At the door, she turned. Take care of her, and sleep at night. I watched her leave, thinking about how some night conversations change life forever, and that sometimes the strongest love manifests not in being together, but in finding the strength to stay apart. A month later, a postcard came from her. A view of Seattle and a short inscription. Some nights stay with us forever, and that's right, because they teach us the most important thing, How to Let Go. I keep this postcard in my desk drawer. And every sleepless night, going down to the kitchen, I remember that one night when silence and darkness created a special world. A world that existed for just a few hours, but changed us forever. Did you like this story? Let us know in the comments what you liked. Subscribe to our storytelling podcast. Also, don't forget to like and ring the bell so you don't miss more interesting stories. See you soon.